This Dogman encounter happened in 2010, New Mexico, Oasis State Park. A long while back, I was camping at a place here in New Mexico named Oasis State Park. Back then, my church had many kids running around, and I made good friends with one. I was good enough friends with him to be invited on a camping trip with him, his father, and his little sister. Of course, I brought everything from a Bible. I don't know why, so don't ask. Spare clothes for a 3-day camping trip, a small pocket knife, a lantern, my sleeping bag, and my own tent, along with the basic essentials like socks, a toothbrush, and toothpaste. It probably doesn't bear importance, but I was the oldest, being 12, Ryan a few weeks younger than me, and his sister around 8. The first day, we set up our tents and proceeded to have a fantastic time. Me and my friend Ryan finished our tents and walked to a pond not at all far from our tents. The trail to it was literally next to our site. I find it important now to mention that, yes, there were trees, but not like any forest. These were small, feeble trees, clearly recently planted and obviously barely surviving. I remember them faintly, as I don't really pay attention to shrubbery, short of collecting sticks and watching out for cacti when me and Ryan explored the trail. Anyway, like I was saying, me and Ryan had a blast, even if we had to drag his sister around because she was bored and couldn't explore alone. We saw a pretty snake, sleek and black. I don't remember the species at the pond, getting a drink. Once it finished, it shot off back into the bush. Other than that, the only two other features of this park are important. The bathroom was up a slight incline along the trail, maybe 2 or 3 campsites away from ours. That and a bunch of sand dunes built around rocky pillars. Natural pillars, like thin mesas, sat ahead of our campsite, maybe 3 campsites away. Beyond those pillars was a fenced-off, very flat and very dry area, if I remember correctly. The bathroom from the front of my tent was to the left, the dunes directly ahead, through a badly kept trail. The first day was fine, and that night we got a campfire going, had s'mores, and told scary stories. The dad told the only scary stories that night, and I'm sure the man's faith affected the gore level of the story, considering we were kids. It was about some abandoned building with ghosts or something, and it wasn't very scary. I went to bed that night expecting a cold but peaceful sleep. At some point, I woke up and I had to pee. I didn't feel like walking all the way to the bathroom, lazy me, right? So I just went ahead and peed on a small birch tree that sat literally 4 feet away from my tent. After that, I was back asleep in my tent. I don't remember how long I was asleep for before waking up and feeling the need to poop. It had just rained, I could tell from the tiny leak in my tent, and I wasn't gonna poop on a tree. Well, my little LED lantern wasn't very powerful, and now my shoes were outside the tent completely wet, but I needed to go and it wasn't going to wait, so I decided just to deal with it. Like literally every tent I have ever owned, and probably every other tent, my tent had 2 doors. Not a front and back door, but a zipped shut door and a zipped shut screen door outside that. This way you can see outside your tent without leaving or having a few mosquitoes move in for the night. Of course, having heard coyote howls, I wanted to check outside my tent before stepping out. And also, being a kid, I didn't realize how easily a wild, hungry coyote could rip through my flimsy nylon screen. So I unzipped the tent door and turned my LED lantern. For a few seconds, everything seemed clear and the rain had already stopped. Welcome to New Mexico weather. So I decided it would be safe. I began to unzip the tent screen when I heard a very loud howl, like a coyote's but much deeper. If you haven't heard coyotes, they get pretty high-pitched, so this was weird. It took a moment for my ADHD self to stop focusing on the weird pitch and realize the howl sounded close, like from the pond close. I didn't even really think to turn off my lantern. I just went to close the tent flap. About a third of the way done zipping the actual tent flap shut, I heard crunching, like when you're on a pebble-filled playground and somebody is casually walking. This is because the tent sites had pebble flooring, just a bunch of tiny little pebbles on a big open circle to make a smoother camp area. Not only was the howl odd, but the footsteps themselves were odd. A fair bit of time between each step, and it sounded like they were being dragged with each step, like claws. Well, ADHD me froze in my task, and thousands of ideas distracted me from closing the tent. Sure enough, I took just long enough for the creature in our sight to find the front of my tent. I instantly froze. For the first time in my life, my mind was truly blank. Sure, I don't think things through, but I never sit and think about anything. This thing was huge from what my crappy lantern showed. It was big and a mix of colors on the back, all ranging in random patterns of brown and black fur. It was rather bulky on top, but not like a bodybuilder, more like natural solid muscle that might have been made from lots of running. Furthermore, it was thin in the middle and had stocky legs and arms. The legs by the hip stockier than any other part of its limbs. Aside from that, I'd note that its fur was brighter than most Dogman depictions I've seen, like on the muzzle, which was a whitish along the bottom. Now, I've done some research on Dogman since then, and like most depictions and descriptions, it had smaller ears and glowing eyes, most likely glowing from my lantern. If you want an idea to base the ears off of, they sat directly on top like a cat trying to hear something. At some point, it leaned down and sniffed the tree before turning to me and looking me in the eye for a moment. But thing is, when it leaned down, its hind legs, I assume, made a strange popping sound, like your knuckles, but much louder. I looked into those eyes, though, and I swear I've never been more afraid in my life. Have you ever looked at something, just looked at it in its eyes and realized you're the prey? That primal fear that extends beyond normal fear when you realize that this thing looking back at you has all the power, that you are its prey, and it has no disconcertable mercy. I felt that right then and there, knowing that no tent wall was stopping that beast if it wanted to crush my skull in its jaws. I never went to the bathroom. I know what some people are going to say. It was just some weirdo with coyote skins or a fake fur coat. It couldn't have been. The fur wasn't very thick, so I could see the muscles ripple as it moved. Plus, the fur was flush with its disjointed body. Stranger yet, before it moved off into the darkness, it lowered to all fours. And when it did this, its knees made more of a popping sound. It was the sound of bone hitting bone awkwardly in your body. I'm sure of it now. Its knees had to disjoint and slide into a different position for it to run on all fours. This is my experience, and some may call it bull, but whatever. My friend and his family heard the howl, but ignored it, thinking it would go away. So, I know it wasn't a dream. Other than that, the next morning, I had somehow held my poop all night and was only willing to come out when everybody was awake. There were tracks on the sand dunes that a ranger said were coyote, but other than that, no sign remained aside of the loud howl that scared any campers that were awake. If you ask me why it didn't kill me, I'll tell you I'm not sure. Maybe it was the Bible. Maybe it didn't care for the taste of children. Maybe it knew the whole campsite would wake up if it tried something. So, for all I know, it let me live by circumstance. Either way, that's all I got. Since then, I've been fascinated by Dogman. Other than that, giving you this story so others can learn is enough for me. I'm waiting to learn about Dogman, and if I can help others learn by sharing this experience today, then cool. Thank you.